Hey, Nicole here with Own Your Mom & Co. And I've seen this question pop up a lot in the Facebook groups and in my DMs, people asking for specific samples of backdrops within photos. I want to show you guys a little bit of what I do whenever I'm preparing mock-ups of custom templates with my customers with a backdrop request. So in my event questionnaire process, which I'll link for you guys below, I also have a whole video on my event questionnaire process. I ask my clients for specific things related to the event. I ask for their style, I ask for their invitation, all of that to gather an idea of what template I could help design that would tie in their whole wedding together. And that also includes backdrops. I used to ask people for backdrops. Sometimes I do, like backdrop selections or choices. But what I've started to do recently is I ask them the questions of what their theme is for the event. And then I actually take it upon myself to curate backdrops that I think would fit the theme best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the client has a very specific vision that maybe doesn't even align with the theme of their wedding. That's happened to me before. But what I find is we are the experts on what this experience is and what it will look like. And sometimes people think that the backdrop is like what makes the photo. And the truth of it is, the template is actually more important, I think, than the backdrop itself. Obviously, the backdrop will be seen in the room, in an environment perspective. You don't want something that's going to clash with the room. However, I do think it's super important that you incorporate an image of the backdrop in whatever mock-up you're providing to your client. Sometimes the client may want a crazy busy backdrop and then also want a template that's crazy busy. And let me tell you, with hundreds of events under my belt, those two things do not mix. If a client wants a very busy backdrop, then their template needs to be super, super simple. And if a client wants a very extravagant photo template, then their backdrop needs to be super, super plain. And if you're doing iPad photo booths, the backdrop matters even less because so much less of it is going to be visible in the picture. So I'm going to dive in today and show you how I generate mock-ups for my clients so they can get a full picture of what their guests are going to get in their hand if they're doing prints, or what they're going to get on their phone if they're doing digital images. So let's dive in. There's a couple things you're going to need first. First, you're going to need a photo of your backdrop. Now, I love PB backdrops. Been a fan since day one. I will still only ever buy their products. And what they have on their website, which is super, super helpful for us photo booth owners, is they have an entire gallery full of pictures that you can download and use in these templates. So here's what we're going to do first. We're going to jump in and find a backdrop that we like. Then we're going to hop into Canva and start to generate our template. And we're going to plug the backdrop into the template. And then I'm going to show you how I present mine to my customers. So first things first, let's jump into the backdrops. So if you go to the PB Backdrops website, so here we are, scrolled all the way at the top. You're going to scroll all the way down and you're going to click on all backdrop images. So once you get there, you're going to have a whole gallery full of backdrops that you can pick and download from. Now, I will say, I don't think every backdrop is here. I don't know how quickly they make new backdrops all the time, and I don't know how quickly they input images here. With that said, let's just pick one as an example. There was a sparkly one that I wanted to use in my example. I am doing a very simple backdrop. So let's actually just do this one. This is the one I actually have. And when you click on the photo, you're going to click on download, and then it's going to download it. Then we're going to hop into Canva. Okay, now we're in Canva, and I'm going to actually show you an example. So I'm just going to duplicate this for myself, and I'm going to erase all of this stuff. So when I'm making my template for my customer, let's just say that on their invitation, it was very, very simple, very beautiful, very elegant, very modern, very simplistic. I'm not going to want a crazy busy template. I'm going to want to bring those kinds of elements as well within the template design. So I'm going to keep my fonts really unique, really beautiful, really simple. And then I'm going to have my backdrops just kind of be those accents in the photo. So we downloaded our image. So let's just jump that in here. So here I just have, so in my template, I just have placeholder squares. And what I'm able to do is then take my photo and just drag and drop into each of these squares. And then I'm going to want to make sure to size it so it represents what it will be like in person. And so for this, I know it's not going to be this far away. So I'm going to think of it right in the middle because that's where people are going to be standing. And I'm going to be capturing kind of like that section of the backdrop right there. And then I can either, obviously I have all of these here, and these are, you can get these squares from Elements if you just click photo or frame square, and then you can just drag and drop those in. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it easy on myself, and I'm just going to duplicate this exactly and just do it right like that. And then I can go in and make sure it's aligned perfectly. It's 13 on, and then I'm just going to delete those layers that I don't need no more. Okay. So here we have our backdrop. Now I want to put people in front of there because I want my clients to have an image of what it's going to look like with their guests in the photo. So you can do this in a couple of ways. You can take maybe some marketing images that you have. Maybe you and your team took photos and you want to use those. That's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a photo of my team and then plug this in here. So I've got my team's photos here, and I'm going to make a new kind of section. This is a 2x6, by the way. The size is 600 by 1800 pixels. So just so you know, if you wanted to do this yourself and work alongside with me, I'm going to take my photos of my team right here. This is a fun little launch event that we did for our new brand. And I'm going to take these photos and I'm going to do something really cool in Canva. If you don't know about this feature, I'm going to show you. It's the most amazing feature. So you're just going to click on your photo and click background remover. And it's going to scan the photo and take the background away from every single photo, which is going to be helpful for us when we plug this photo back in front of our backdrop. And I'm going to do that again on this one. Oh, it didn't like this one. I think it's because of the hands. Let's try again. Yep, it didn't like that one. So let's try this one. I think because of her arm being raised like this, it doesn't like it. Okay, so I've got that one. I'm going to actually crop this one so my logo's not in there. Okay, I'm going to delete this one. So now I've got 3 photos. 3 great photos that I'm going to plug into my first template. This one's a little bit tricky. So let's start with the first one. If you just like drag and drop, it's going to take over the whole photo because this isn't a square, this is a frame. And so whenever you have a frame in place, it just absorbs everything in the photo. So it's honestly better to resize. Let me actually just it's better to resize the actual backdrop and just crop it rather than doing it in the frame kind of way. Frame is just a little bit easier to like drag and drop the image into. But what I find is almost easier is if you just take your backdrop image and then instead of having this square here, you just zoom in like that and then crop. It takes a little bit more finessing because you kind of have to make sure it lines up correctly and in the right spot. But it's not impossible. See, look at that. It's not impossible. So that's kind of it. And then sometimes I'll like line it up to make sure it's the same sizing here. Okay. So for example, this would be much easier if we were like dragging and dropping because it won't absorb the photo. But it's not impossible. And I'm going to show you how to do it, obviously. That's a better representation right here. And then all I would do is like align this perfectly. I'm just pressing up on my little arrows on my laptop. And obviously, like you can see her arm is cut off on the side. So I want to make sure that the image is large enough to take up that whole thing. So do you see how little of the backdrop is included in that? That gives a much clearer idea of when you're doing a square crop frame image. It's going to crop out a lot of the backdrop so that the focus can be on the guests, which is the most important part of it anyways. And so I really love showing mock-up templates to give the client the understanding of like, hey, you're going to see the backdrop, but it's going to be like very little of what the photo is going to be. The main focus is going to be the guests always. So I would drag and drop all of these people. these images into here and then kind of go from there. So now let me show you how I would do this. It's a little bit more time consuming, but I'm going to show you how to do this if you do have the frame set up and you want to put your photo in front of it. So you kind of have to put it off to the side. As soon as your cursor goes over here into the box at all, it's going to absorb the image. So you just want to be right outside. And then what you're going to do is, it's, again, guys, time consuming. You're just going to, I have my finger on my little arrow, left arrow, and I'm going like this. Another way is if you kind of go from the bottom and kind of like scoot it up that way. Oh, see, went too close. I'm zooming in and then just giving, as soon as my mouse hovers over it, it takes it. So as soon as I can get close enough, I'll just hit my top arrow and then move the photo that way. And then I'm just gonna make it bigger, just like that. So there's my first image in the template. And then I'm gonna do the second one, which is here. I'm gonna cut, paste. And once again, I want to get the photo as close as I can to my box without hovering my mouse over it. And then clicking on it and hitting my left arrow until I can get it in the box. And then my girl Remy is all over this way. So I'm going to have to make this one bigger because I want them to fill this photo because that's how it was actually taken. And this is going to be the most realistic representation of how close the photo will be when they're at the event. And so obviously this is overlapping. So I'm going to now cut this to fill. Okay. So there's that second photo. And then we're going to take our third photo. This one's going to be a little trickier because we're going to have some people that are cut off here, and that's okay. I think that's about right. And then we're just going to cut here. My little guy's neck is cut off. So there we have it. We have our template here, and that gives them a really cool look at what the entire template is going to look like. And I think I messed this up earlier. So here we have Wedding of the Johnsons. I think I'm going to kind of select all of this and move this up a little bit and center that. And then we have our template. So we have 3 photos with our backdrop in there so people can have an understanding of what the entire experience is going to look like. And then they can decide, oh, I don't really like the gray. Maybe I want something more colorful, and go from there. So we have our template that we want to share with our customers. What I typically like to do from this point is I like to give my clients 2 or 3 options. Sometimes if they are dead set on a backdrop, or if I'm dead set on a backdrop being the best choice for them, I will change maybe the template itself. Maybe I'll change the font. Maybe I'll change maybe this color to be like a color. Maybe, for example, maybe I make this black and then I make this color white. So let's do that real quick. So I'm going to change this to black. And then this is too light. It's not really readable. So I'm going to make this maybe like a lighter gold. Let's try this one. That's a little too like maybe let's change this font entirely. Let's change this into, maybe that's just like slightly different. Not really. That's not different enough. Let's try that one. Okay. Maybe we try a different font in that, and then maybe we try that. And then maybe we make the font bigger. This is honestly not what I would send to a client. I'd spend more time on it, but I just want to give you guys the example of what 2 different templates would look like. So we got 2 templates. So now what we're going to do is we're going to download these and then upload them into HoneyBook, because that's what I use whenever I do anything. When I send out an event questionnaire, when I'm gathering this information, I also send a mock-up template approval form, and I'm going to show you guys that next. So let's download this. I'm going to download each individual photo here. So we've got this one and this one. And then I'm going to hop into my HoneyBook mockup template. All right, so I'm in my HoneyBook mockup approval template. And here it just has my custom font and instructions. So I tell them to please review. I tell them to review for spelling, for placement, for design, for all of it. And these are just like samples I have in here right now. And so we're going to replace them with the ones we actually just did. And so actually, let me show you real quick. If you click on this, you have the option to do 2 or 3. I would say stick to 2 or 3. Don't give people too many options. I think if there's a mistake that I see more often than not is we give our clients too many options. They're already like choosing a million things. Keep it simple for them. And if they really don't like anything you do, that's fine. You can always redo it. But start with like 2 or 3 very simple choices. And for this example, we made the 2. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to click replace, upload, and then we're going to take our, get our little photos here. First and second. So here's our first one. And then I'm going to click on it. It's going to load it in. And then I'm going to click on this next one. I'm going to click replace, upload. All right. And I can change this backdrop if I want, this backdrop color, if I want it to be, match my, let's say, brand colors, for example. But I wanted to just kind of offset this a little bit because I don't want our white template to blend in too much with the background. All right, so here is a preview of what my client is going to get whenever I send this. So this is obviously like my logo. If you get this template, you will have your logo here, some call to actions, like telling them what to do next, telling them to verify everything. And then they're able to see up close and personal what the backdrop is going to look like, what the people are going to look like, what the fonts look like compared to each other. And then they're going to be asked to check and choose which template they want and if they agree to move forward. And both of these questions are required. So I want them to send this back to me and tell me, yes, I choose this one. And yes, I want to move forward. And if they don't want to move forward, they have a chance down here to give them a reason why they don't want to move forward. And I love this because it keeps them accountable to their decisions too. So if they come back and say, why on earth did you spell Johnson's that way? I can send them this and say, hey, you actually approved this. Not only once, but twice, because you made the choice to review and you chose the template and then you said you agreed to move forward. If you want to even be double sure, you can ask another question and says, are all of the, do you approve of the fonts or do you approve of the date and the spelling is, have you checked if everything is correct? I actually think I might add that into mine. Just that way, you're protecting yourself completely. There's nothing worse than seeing someone come up on the Facebook group and say, oh my God, I wrote the wrong name, or I spelled the name wrong, or I missed I missed an asterisk or some sort of apostrophe in the template. And then you always wonder, like, did I not get this approved, or I did? And then you're fighting with the customer. And so this makes it very, very clear, keeps them accountable, and keeps you accountable too, and that you guys are both agreeing this is correct. This is what we're moving forward with. So yeah, that is how I create mockups for my clients. That's how I present my mockups to my clients. And it honestly makes it a really thought out process and part of the experience. And I think it makes it feel a lot more professional whenever you're presenting your mockups in such a way that it feels legit. It feels like a really important part of the process. And then it helps from them having to choose between an entire gallery of backdrops and font choices and all of that. This really makes it a very simplistic, curated experience. And so I would love to know if you guys use this, if you guys do this, let me know your process. Let me know if it's different. If you have any other tips or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. But yeah, I hope this is helpful for you as you kind of create a really cool experience for your clients. I'll see you guys in the next video.